We're through the first quarter of the season, so it's time to update my Dynasty Running Back Rankings. I've put together my top 24 backs right now, based not just on early season stats, but also usage, long-term outlook, and what I see on film. I'll break it down tier by tier, starting at the very top with the elite guys, and all the way down to players who might carry a little more risk, but still belong in the top 24. So let's get right into it.
Hey.
At the very top of my S tier in my Dynasty rankings for running backs, it's Bijan Robinson, and in my opinion, he's the best running back in the NFL right now, and honestly, I don't think it's that close either. He has the complete skill set. He can make you miss with some elite elusiveness, lower the shoulder and run through defenders. He can catch passes out of the backfield and even line up as a wide receiver if you need him to. And the Falcons are using him exactly how fantasy managers hoped, and that's why he's sitting as the RB4 on the season through the first 4 games. He's averaging over 20 touches a game. He's efficient in both phases, the pass and the running game, and he's only 23 years old. That mix of age, workload, and talent makes him not just the best Dynasty running back right now, but a guy who can hold his spot for years. Barring injury, Bijan is on his way to a Hall of Fame level career. Next up, and the only other guy in my S tier, is Jahmyr Gibbs. He's one of the most explosive running backs in the entire NFL because of his speed and overall playmaking ability. Through the first 4 games of the season, Gibbs already has 20 receptions and 4 touchdowns, and honestly, I don't think he's even hit his peak yet. There's been some weird game scripts and the committee with David Montgomery that's limited his touches a little bit, but in terms of explosiveness and overall upside, Gibbs is the kind of back who can drop 30 fantasy points on you in any given week. He's currently sitting as the RB5 on the year, and with just one of those 25-point classic games from him, he could easily jump into the top 3. And at just 23 years old, Gibbs has plenty of time to grow into his role, and barring injury, he's set up to be a long-term dynasty cornerstone. At the top of my A tier, we've got Ashton Jeanty. He came into the league with a ton of hype after his historic 2024 season at Boise State, and the Raiders looked like the perfect landing spot since he had little competition in that backfield. But through the first 3 weeks, Jeanty has been fighting for his life behind subpar blocking. He actually had more yards after contact than total rushing yards, which is just a wild stat. But in the 4th game against the Bears, the Raiders unleashed him. 21 carries, 138 yards, and 3 total touchdowns. A true breakout game that made him the RB1 on the week with over 30 fantasy points. That's the Jeanty we were promised. The tackle-breaking elusive back with the footwork to make defenders miss anywhere on the field. Right now, he's sitting as the RB12, but if Vegas continues to feed him like they did in week 4, Jeanty has legitimate top 10 upside this year, and at only 21 years old, he looks like a high-end RB1 for years to come. Next up, we've got Jonathan Taylor, and he's been absolutely tearing it up through the first 4 weeks. The Colts are feeding him almost exclusively in this backfield, and it shows. He's sitting at 77 carries already. That's the 2nd most in the NFL, and he leads the entire NFL in rushing yards with 414 and has 4 total touchdowns on the season already. Now, there are always durability concerns with Taylor, but he's already proven he's elite. Let's not forget his RB1 overall finish back in 2021. Right now, he's sitting as the RB2 on the year, and with the Colts playing better than expected under Daniel Jones, nothing about this offensive system is slowing down in my eyes. Even if he misses a couple games like he has in the past, I think he's still going to finish as a mid to low end RB1, and if he stays healthy all year, he's a real candidate to finish as the RB1 overall. And at 26 years old, he still has another 4 to 5 prime years left barring injury, and that's why he has to be ranked this high. Next up is Bucky Irving, one of the most elusive running backs in the NFL. He's gotten off to a bit of a slow start on the ground, averaging just 3.3 yards per carry, but he's made up for it in the passing game. Through 4 weeks, he's already close to 200 receiving yards with 2 touchdowns through the air, showing how dangerous he can be in space. Now, he is battling some injuries from week 4, and it doesn't look like he's going to play in week 5, but when he's out there, his shiftiness and footwork make him one of the toughest players in the NFL to bring down. He looks like the clear RB1 in this Buccaneers offense as well, with just Rachaad White only mixing in here and there. And the Bucs defense hasn't been that great this year either, which means the offense and Bucky will probably be on the field a lot. And even with just average rushing numbers, he's still sitting as the RB10 right now, thanks to that passing game upside. And at only 23 years old, his dynasty value is strong, and at worst, he's probably going to be a high-end RB2 for the rest of the season. Next up, we've got Omarion Hampton, the Chargers' first-round pick this year, and I was really high on him coming out of college, but I ranked him just a little bit lower than consensus because Najee Harris was still in that backfield, and for the first 2 games, Najee did exactly what I expected. He capped Hampton's ceiling. Then, unfortunately, Najee tears his Achilles, and now Hampton has the full workload in Los Angeles. Since then, he's put together back-to-back 20-point fantasy performances, including 11 catches in just those 2 games. He looks explosive, he's versatile, and in Jim Harbaugh's run-heavy system, he's quickly becoming a problem for defenses. Right now, Hampton is sitting as the RB11 on the year, and if he keeps producing like this, I can easily see him finishing as a mid to high RB1, and at just 22 years old, his dynasty value is only climbing, and if he keeps this up through mid-season, he's going to push for a spot inside my top 5. Next up is James Cook, and honestly, it almost feels disrespectful to put him at RB7 with how good he's been this year. That just shows how stacked the running back position is right now. Cook has been the definition of consistent. He's coming off 3 straight 100-yard games, and he's scored a touchdown in every single week thus far. Last year, I thought his touchdown numbers were a little inflated and maybe a little bit fluky, but he's completely proving me wrong. He's second in the league in rushing right now, and most importantly, he leads the NFL with 5 rushing touchdowns. That puts him on pace for a 20-touchdown season, which would be elite territory. His vision has been excellent. He always falls forward for extra yards, and the Bills are feeding him while he still averages over 5.4 yards per carry. That's crazy. At 26 years old, if Cook keeps producing like this, we're looking at a potential all-time RB1 season this year, and his dynasty value is only going to skyrocket from here. Next up is Quinshon Judkins, the rookie running back for the Browns. He had a little bit of an off-season scare with some legal issues, but everything was dropped, and he finally made his debut in week 2. That first game, he was used a little bit sparingly, but he was efficient, and since then, he scored in back-to-back weeks while clearly being utilized as the Browns' RB1. Right now, Judkins is sitting at the RB23, but if Cleveland can get anything going in the passing game, his ceiling gets much, much higher. He's explosive, he's being worked into the passing game more and more each week, and he looks like he's going to be a volume-heavy back the rest of the season. At just 21 years old with barely any injury history, Judkins is shaping up to be a super consistent Josh Jacobs type of player for us in fantasy, and if he keeps producing like he has the past 2 weeks, a high-end RB2 finish feels very realistic for his rookie season. Next up is Saquon Barkley. Last year, he was the overall RB1 with a historic season for the Eagles, but this year we've seen a bit of a dip in production thus far. He's still sitting as the RB12 right now, but he hasn't been nearly as efficient because of how one-dimensional and linear this Eagles offense has looked. They're trying to get the passing game going, and that has to happen if Barkley's going to get anywhere close to repeating what he did last year. With that said, he hasn't been irrelevant. He's already got 3 touchdowns and over 230 rushing yards, though it's mostly come through heavy volume. At 28 years old, with some injuries already stacked up throughout his career, I think Barkley only has 3 to 4 years left at a high level, but while he's here, he's still going to be a strong dynasty asset, and for now, he remains a locked-in RB1 who can still win you some weeks. At the top of my B tier is Travion Henderson, the Patriots rookie 2nd round pick. I was super high on Henderson pre-draft, and I still am, even though he hasn't put up big numbers throughout his first 4 weeks. What we are seeing, though, is steady growth. He's been more involved each week as Ramondre Stevenson continues to struggle with fumbles. Henderson just scored his first touchdown in week 4, and he's already locked down the passing down roles. He's explosive, he's excellent in pass protection, and he doesn't have fumbling issues at all. He actually never lost a single fumble throughout his collegiate career, and this ranking is a bit speculative for sure, but I think it's close to being his backfield for the taking. If and when Henderson takes over the RB1 workload, he could turn into a huge upside play down the stretch. And at just 22 years old, he's got plenty of time to grow into a long-term dynasty asset. Next up is De'Von Achane, and I know some people think this is a little bit low of a ranking for him. Achane is one of the most explosive players in the NFL, and when the Dolphins get him into space, he's a threat to score from anywhere on the football field. I get that. Through 3 weeks, he's only averaged around 10 carries a game, but he's still been very relevant because of his work in the passing game. Now, I know he had a big game in week 4, but outside of that, the biggest concern I have is with his rushing volume. Miami hasn't been in the best game scripts early, and Achane isn't really being used as a between the tackles runner. I think this caps his week-to-week ceiling a little bit, but even so, he's still sitting as the RB8 right now, and always has that potential to lead all running backs in receptions each and every year. And at 23 years old, Achane looks like the type of player who will have a long career as a big play specialist and a dynamic receiving back, but he's not a traditional workhorse, and I think Ollie Gordon's going to be a little bit more annoying than people think. Regardless though, his explosiveness makes him a consistent difference maker in fantasy on any given week. Next up is Kyren Williams, the workhorse running back for the Rams, and through the first 4 weeks, he's been getting heavy volume, averaging over 15 touches per game, and he's been pretty efficient with it as well, averaging over 4.4 yards per carry, and that workload alone has kept him very relevant, and right now he's sitting as the RB16 on the season. The touchdown numbers haven't really been there yet, with just 2 scores so far, but I think that's more bad luck than anything else. As the Rams get into the red zone more often, I expect that number to climb consistently. He's not the most dynamic pass catcher, but the sheer volume he's seeing will continue to lock him in as a reliable fantasy option. At 25 years old, with the Rams investing into him long term, I think he's got 3 to 4 years of solid production ahead of him as long as he stays healthy. Next up is Christian McCaffrey, and we all know what he can do with a fully healthy season, but the problem has been staying healthy with him. Over his last 5 years, he's only played more than 10 games twice, but both times he finished as a top 2 running back in fantasy. Right now, CMC is the RB3 despite an average statistical start on the ground. Where he's dominated in is in the passing game. He leads all running backs in receptions and receiving yards, and with how banged up the 49ers wide receiver group is, I don't see that slowing down anytime soon. Once the receivers are back, I think his rushing efficiency will improve as well. Even with some inefficiencies, he's still 6th in the NFL with 69 carries and has 2 receiving touchdowns. The upside is still elite, but at 29 years old, with his injury history, he's definitely a high-risk, high-reward dynasty asset. If he can stay healthy the rest of the season, you're looking at a high-end RB1, but one more major injury could be career-ending for him. Next up is Josh Jacobs, one of my most owned running backs in Dynasty because of how consistent and safe he is as an asset. As expected, the Packers are feeding him. He actually leads the NFL in carries right now. He hasn't been very efficient at just 3.3 yards per carry, but he's already found the end zone 4 times this year. Jacobs already has a strong history of durability, missing only 6 games in the last 4 years, which is amazing. And over the past couple of weeks, he's been more involved in the passing game with 9 catches for over 100 yards. And at 27 years old, he's not quite a spring chicken anymore, but with his physical running style and footwork, I think he's got the longevity to keep producing into his early 30s if he wants. He's already has 4 top 10 fantasy finishes under his belt, and with how the Packers are using him, I don't see that changing anytime soon. Jacobs is one of the safest running backs you can have on your roster in Dynasty. Next up, we have Breece Hall, and so far it's been a pretty underwhelming fantasy season so far, but the tape still tells a good story. His vision remains top tier, he's still contributing in the passing game, and with Braylon Allen going down in week 4 with what looks like a pretty serious knee injury, Hall is in line for even more work over the next few weeks. Through 4 games, Hall has 52 carries, but still hasn't found the end zone yet. That said, I think his breakout game is coming soon. The usage is there and the talent is still pretty good. At 24 years old, even if past injuries have taken a little bit of his explosiveness away, he's still got high-end ability and plenty of upside. For me, Hall remains a strong dynasty asset whose best games this season are still ahead of him. Next up, we have Cam Skattebo, the rookie wrecking ball for the Giants. Week 1, he barely saw the field, but over the next 3 games, he's totaled 56 touches and has scored twice, including a massive 25-carry workload in Week 4 against the Chargers. With Tyron Tracy sidelined for at least the next few weeks, Skattebo has stepped in as the lead option, and the way he's running, I don't see him giving up many touches when Tracy returns. And he's got a screw loose in the best way possible. His style is pure physicality. He doesn't want to make defenders miss at all. He just wants to run through them until he's on the ground. Right now, he's sitting as the RB20, but with his volume and the way the Giants are using him in both the run game and passing game, I see him finishing as a volume-dependent RB2. Long-term, with how punishing his style is, I don't think he has a decade-long career, but at 23 years old, he's got at least a few years of solid, productive football ahead of him. Next up, we have Travis Etienne, and for some people, his start to the season might be a little surprising. After an injury-plagued 2024 season where he only barely cleared 550 rushing yards, Etienne has bounced back in a big way. He's currently the RB9 on the year and is on pace for around 1,500 yards and double-digit touchdowns. The explosiveness is back. He's already ripped off multiple 40-yard-plus runs, including a 40-yard touchdown against one of the best run defenses in football, the San Francisco 49ers. With Tank Bigsby traded, Etienne is now locked into the goal line work, and his only competition right now is Bashul Tutin, who profiles more as a change of pace option for me. Through 4 weeks, he's top 10 in carries, and this new offense looks like it's built to maximize his strengths. At 26 years old, Etienne does carry some injury history, but if he's producing like this against elite defenses, it's hard to see him slowing down. At this pace, he's a top 10 back this year and maybe one of the biggest surprises among the veteran running backs. Kicking off my C tier, we've got Kenneth Walker III, and so far his career has been very interesting. He came off hot as a rookie with over 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns, but since then injuries have really piled up for him. He seems to miss at least 3 or 4 games every year, and that really caps his ceiling. Talent-wise, I think there are very few backs that can match him. He's explosive, athletic, and on any given week he can put up a breakout performance. The problem is that the Seahawks backfield is clearly a committee right now with Zach Charbonnet eating into a lot of his carries. Even with that, Walker is sitting as the RB15 through 4 weeks, but his lack of passing game involvement makes him a pretty touchdown-dependent running back. At 24 years old, the upside is still there every single week, but the combination of workload, concerns, and the durability issues make him a risky long-term dynasty investment. If he's your RB2, you can live with that, but you've got to be ready to lose him for at least a few games every single year. Next up, we have Derrick Henry, in my opinion, the most accomplished running back still active in the NFL, and you'd think his age would be the only reason he's down here in my C tier, but that's not the full story. Through 4 games, Henry sits as the RB19, and he had an absolute monster performance in Week 1, but since then, the production has dipped. He's fumbled 3 times already, which I don't think is a long-term issue at all, but the bigger concern is usage. Over the last 3 games, he hasn't topped 12 carries, and that's not because Henry can't handle the workload, obviously. It's because the Ravens' defense has been so poor that they've been playing from behind in every game, forcing the offense away from his strengths. Still, Henry has weekly boom potential, and at any given moment he can break off a big run and rack up touches if the game script allows. At 31 years old, he's not a long-term dynasty option, but I still think he has 1 or 2 good years left as a low-end RB1, and honestly, with how well he takes care of his body, I wouldn't be shocked if he plays until 34 or 35 years old, but for now, with the Ravens defense struggling, he has to sit lower on in my rankings. Next up, we have Jordan Mason, who has climbed my rankings because of an injury ahead of him. With Aaron Jones likely out for a good stretch of the season, Mason now gets a chance to handle a much bigger role in this offense. And he's making the most of it. On 56 carries, Mason is averaging 4.8 yards per attempt, which has always been his calling card. He's a tough downhill running back with plenty of yards after contact. He's not a flashy player, but he's violent between the tackles and reliable in short yardage situations. The downside is that he doesn't offer much in the passing game, and he's had some durability issues in the past, but with his current volume plus goal line opportunities, he's a dependable RB2 for fantasy purposes right now. At 26 years old, I don't know if he is a long-term dynasty outlook in terms of it being super strong, but for this season, he's a guy that you can plug in and trust for now. Next up, we have RJ Harvey, who hasn't exactly made waves on the stat sheet so far, mainly because J.K. Dobbins is playing some of the best football of his career. But with Dobbins, we kind of know the story already. He looks great for 5 to 6 games, and then the injuries start to creep in. I really hope J.K. Dobbins stays healthy in Denver, but his history doesn't make that easy to bet on. Harvey is currently the RB34, boosted by a garbage time touchdown in the Broncos' blowout win over Cincinnati. But even in that fourth quarter run, he did show some flashes, good vision, solid burst, and he's consistently being used in the passing game. I don't think Denver spent a second-round pick on him to sit forever. Harvey brings explosiveness, great cutback ability, and the kind of movement skills that can make him dangerous once he gets the starting role. At 24 years old, I think the Broncos will test that shelf life sooner rather than later, and when Dobbins inevitably misses time or moves on from the team, Harvey has the skill set to emerge as one of the more explosive runners in the NFL. Next up, we have Chuba Hubbard, the true workhorse for the Panthers, and he really broke out last season, putting up a high-end RB2 year on a terrible Panthers team. He had 250 carries, 10 touchdowns, and a very efficient 4.7 yards per carry, and this year he's right back to it. Through 4 games, he's on pace for 200 carries despite the offense being inconsistent, and he's currently the RB16 even without scoring a single rushing touchdown yet. Once those touchdown numbers start to come, I think he'll be a steady high-end RB2 this year. At 26 years old, he's probably got 3 to 4 years of prime left, and with the way he's been playing, I don't see Carolina exercising that potential out in his contract next year. That would keep him locked in as their guy until about 2028. Hubbard is one of the few backs in the NFL right now who can truly say he has a workhorse role, and I think that's going to continue this year. Next up, we have Javonte Williams, now with the Cowboys, and honestly, he's been one of the biggest surprises this year. Through 4 weeks, he's sitting as the RB6 overall with 4 touchdowns, and he looks way more like the powerful downhill runner we saw flashes of back in Denver. The explosiveness isn't quite what it used to be after all those injuries, but he's still running through contact, churning out consistent yardage, and most importantly, he's getting the vast majority of the touches in this Dallas backfield. Miles Sanders has been sprinkled in here or there, but this is Javonte's backfield right now. He's also involved in the passing game, which makes him a true workhorse, and at 25 years old, if he can stay healthy, he profiles as a volume-dependent low-end RB1 this season, and a reliable answer for Dallas over the next couple of seasons. Last up in my rankings, we have Chase Brown, and I will be honest, I am not the biggest fan of Chase Brown as a player at all, but he is a starting running back with volume, and that matters in fantasy. Last year, he finished as the RB12 thanks to heavy usage in the passing game from Joe Burrow and favorable running lanes against lighter boxes. This season has been very tough, though. His efficiency has dipped to just 2.3 yards per carry, though he does have 11 catches for 74 yards and a touchdown from week 1. With Burrow out until at least mid-December, I don't see Brown as a reliable start right now, but at 25 years old, he does offer some longevity, and the Bengals clearly trust him, and they only added one back in the draft, Taj Brooks, with late day 3 capital. So while I don't see league-winning upside here at all, Brown is still a serviceable RB2 or flex option in Dynasty once Burrow comes back due to his volume and the passing game upside. And that's my top 24 Dynasty running backs so far this season. Obviously, these rankings can shift fast with injuries, usage changes, or breakout performances, so I'll keep updating as the year goes on. Let me know what you think. Who do I have too high, too low, or missing completely? Appreciate you guys watching as always, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.
Hey.